Hey all, Fiorim here. Time to continue the Mega Factory project. In the previous episodes I have built the side factories for copper and steel, and now is the time for oil. Now, before we begin, I just want to highlight that even though I am building this on the Spire Coast, that's not really a good idea in the long run. Not only will the whole area be reworked, but Snoot actually revealed this in a recent dev stream.
I actually have a bit of news here, okay? This is gonna upset a lot of people. So a couple of people asked me earlier if the resource nodes will change in the Spire Coast, and they in fact will. Dun dun dun!
Oh well, I decided to build a factory there anyway, mostly because I thought it would be faster, and that I could just redo it somewhere else when the change is released. There's also the proximity of the oil nodes and the idea that I got about building a mushroom-shaped factory among the giant mushrooms in the area. 30 hours later, I'm not so sure anymore if it was such a great idea. My mega factory will need about 3000 rubber, 150 plastic, 900 polymer resin, 2600 petroleum coke, and 600 fuel per minute. All of this, with plenty of spare fuel for some fuel generators, can be produced from the oil nodes that are currently on the Spire Coast, since those provide a total of 2850 crude oil when fully overclocked. I'm gonna use the most resource efficient recipes in this build. That means using the quite complicated rubber plastic loops that are presented in the Satisfactory wiki, and that I will probably do a separate video on in the near future. In short, these loops allow you to make 3 plastic or rubber from every crude oil, which is insanely more efficient than the standard recipe with just 3 to 2. A central part in the loop is also the diluted fuel recipe, which allows making fuel practically from water and oil. This means I can do this for all the remaining crude oil that is not turned to other materials and burn it in fuel generators for some pretty serious energy production. For this build I'm not going to bother with turbo fuel, even though that would increase the energy production even further, mainly because I don't want to figure out how to bring coal and sulfur to this site, especially as this factory can't stay here forever. The round shape of the building makes this build somewhat challenging. Round shapes are not supported by Satisfactory, so currently the only way to make them is to use the rotating foundations and zooping. Foundations can be rotated in 5-degree increments, so the way to make circles is to place a foundation and zoop the desired radius to all 4 directions. You then delete the center foundation, place it again with a 5-degree rotation, and zoop another radius to all directions. This only works with sufficiently high radiuses. As you can see here, a diameter of 7, that is a radius of 3.5, gives us a nasty jagged border to our so-called circle. Due to the geometry of the game, you can create almost perfect circles when zooping 11 foundations to each side from the center point, thus giving the circle a diameter of 23 and a radius of 11.5. It is no coincidence that this happens to be the diameter of the thinnest part of this oil factory. It allows, for instance, building full glass windows on those floors without any nasty overlapping. As the factory requires a lot of internal logistics, I wanted to hide as much of it as possible. This is achieved by building service levels that are 2 walls tall between each floor. All the conveyor belts and most of the pipes are hidden on these levels. However, I am bringing in all the pipes to the actual floor with the machines before connecting the pipes. The reason for this is explained in Total Eclipse's excellent video about fluids, and in short it is that the fluids only go upwards once the previous level is full. It could cause the machines to stall if you feed them from below. I did, however, want to show the massive amounts of pipes leading to the factory, as well as the pipes transporting the fluids between the floors, so I decided to draw them outside the factory on the south-facing wall. Since there are issues with the Mark II pipes not being fully reliable with the full 600 per minute that they are supposed to be supporting, I decided to bring in the crude oil in Mark I pipes of 300 oil each. Similarly, water is brought upstairs in Mark I pipes of 300 water each. This increases the number of pipes, which in this case is only positive considering I want to highlight the pipes on the wall. The idea of a mushroom shape caused also some troubles. For instance, ideally the diluted fuel blenders should be located immediately after the initial heavy oil residue refineries, as they only need heavy oil residue and water. But they also take a lot of space. I decided to go for the looks first and practicality second and place them at the top level of the building if you don't count the fuel generators. This means I need to draw water and heavy oil residue all the way up there and then fuel down to the floors that actually need it. But hey, I wanted to show a lot of pipes on the wall, so I guess now I get it. Let's take a look at the finished factory then. In the basement I have 56 water extractors pumping water for the diluted fuel and the residual rubber recipes. On the next two floors I have the heavy oil residue refineries, 95 in total. These take the crude oil and convert it to heavy oil residue and polymer resin. Some of the polymer resin is sent out from the factory and some of it is sent further to the higher floors. After that I have built 40 refineries for the recycled plastic. These require fuel and rubber as inputs, both of which are produced higher in the building, and make plastic out of those. Some of the plastic is sent out from the factory, but most of it is sent upstairs to be converted to rubber. On the next floor we are producing the petroleum coke in 22 refineries, as well as converting some of the polymer resin from the heavy oil residue production to rubber in 20 refineries. Both of these outputs are sent out, eventually to the mega factory, but currently they are being synced. After that we get to the main rubber production. The recycled rubber recipe uses plastic and fuel as inputs for 68 refineries. Plastic we are bringing in from below and fuel from above. Then we get to the 59 blenders producing the fuel. The heavy oil residue and water is brought all the way up here to be converted to fuel using the diluted fuel recipe. Some of the fuel is needed for the recycled plastic and rubber recipes below, and some of it is sent to the roof for burning. And finally we have the fuel generators on the roof of the mushroom. They burn the remaining fuel and generate a nice amount of power. I did notice after I had built these that I forgot to bring out the required 580 fuel, so in reality I can only have 173 generators up here, not the 221 that I currently have. And thus we have completed the oil inputs for the mega factory. The remaining external inputs should be more simple, however I still need more power for this project. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe if you want to see more of this content. You can also follow me on Twitter where I post updates on my projects regularly. See you soon for the next video. Yarim out.